All right. Well, good morning. We're now well past halfway, about almost three quarters of the way through our course. Today, I want to talk about project management. We're using project management as kind of a bridge between our discussions yesterday of supply chain management and our discussions tomorrow of product design, product development. Critical because a lot of products are designed using project management teams. First thing I want to point out about project management. Project management has two major goals. Finish the project on time, finish the project within budget. Now, obviously, in the next 45 minutes, I'm not going to make you a project management expert. My goal is for you to understand a little bit about project management and see how you're already really involved in project management today. Because everything you do is a group project during your education experience is project management. And if you use project management skills, which we talk about today, to try to manage those projects, you may find yourself with a much better grade on your group projects. And you're going to see project management teams when you get into business. Regardless of what business you're in, whether you're in education, there's going to be group projects in schools to create new curriculum, group projects to create new programs. In business, group projects to create new programs, new processes, new products. So you're going to see them across the spectrum of a lot of things. First thing I think is critical to understand is that every project has a customer. There's that term that's going to pop up the rest of this semester, the customer. So again, on the exams, if it's a short answer question and you just go brain dead on the exam and you can't find it in your notes, if you say something about the customer, you're going to be at least half right, maybe completely right. So every project has a customer, either an internal customer or an external customer, but there's always a customer for the project. Now, the first writing I could find about projects and kind of referred to project management is from about 33 AD. So about 2,000 years ago. And the quote I've got in the slides there, you'd not start building without having enough money to finish, or people would call you a fool. Well, let's look at several examples of starting projects and not being able to finish them. The first one is the first set of slides, and some pictures in your slide deck. Some pictures from what was supposed to be the Fontainebleau in Las Vegas. They tore down the old casino that was in that area. They're going to build this brand new mega resort. And if you look at the pictures there, from going south on Las Vegas Boulevard, it looks pretty good. When we look at it from the north, it look quite as good. Look up close. I got several pictures up close. You see it's not even close to being finished yet. This thing started in 2007. Now remember 2008, we had this huge recession, global recession. Slowdown in business in Las Vegas. Slowdown in available capital to spend on projects. And this project kind of stalled. Several years ago, Carl Icahn bought this, paid about 25 cents on the dollar for the original cost of it, didn't do anything at all for 2 years, and turned around and sold it for twice what he paid for it. But as you can see, it's not quite close to being finished yet. Latest estimate is somewhere around 2022. It's about a 15-year project to build a building. And in Las Vegas, buildings turn over on a regular basis, so almost time to tear it down, build a new one by the time they finish building this one. The first writing I could find that actually used the term project management from 1697. A monk in Europe used the term project management. He wrote what's called an essay upon projects. Projects have a defined beginning and a defined end. And using that thought process of a defined beginning and a defined end, this monk used the building of Noah's Ark as an example of a project and wrote about it. The first modern article, and I use that term really loosely, that's 61 years ago, not really modern, but modern compared to 1697, was an article called The Project Manager in the Harvard Business Review. The first 20th century paper to talk about project management. So I'll try to find a good definition of project management. Now, I know a lot of folks in education do not like you using Wikipedia. Oh my God, it's a terrible thing for research because people can change stuff. And I know it's true. I mean, I used to work with a guy, seriously. This guy would go in once a week and screw something up in Wikipedia just to see how long it'd take to fix it. I used to tell him, if he spent as much time doing what we got paid to do as screwing Wikipedia, maybe he'd get promoted and get a better job. Never could sink in with it. But this actual definition of project and project management, when you look at the source Wikipedia uses, it's the Project Management Institute's body of knowledge, the official reference publication for becoming a project management professional certification. A couple of things that are critical here about it. It's temporary. It's one time. It's got a defined beginning and a defined end. That's critical. That's what separates it from programs. And again, the goal is to finish on time and finish within budgets. I got some more pictures in the slide deck, as a matter of fact, that shows a project that I've been following for a while now. This is the high-speed rail system in Hawaii. They came to the realization they can't build any more roads. They've expanded really more than the road infrastructure will allow them to expand. So traffic there is terrible. It's like a 2-hour commute each morning and each afternoon, depending on where you work in Hawaii. So they decided to put this rail system in. The rail system is now in its 7th year being built. It's about $9 billion over budget. And the latest reports out of Hawaii the last couple of weeks is that because of the reduced revenues, because tourism is, was it COVID-19? Because of the reduced revenues from reduced tourism, that being the #1 industry in Hawaii, they say now they don't have enough money to finish it. It's going to cost another couple of years to finish this rail system. Not within budget, obviously not within the time frame established. And one of the problems, tying this back to our discussions last week of quality, one of the problems here is when they started testing last summer the rail system, what they finished so far, they discovered that some of the concrete did not meet manufacturing specifications. It was not as strong as it should be. And it's already starting to crack. Not sure I want to ride on a rail 10, 15 feet in the air that the concrete is not sufficiently structured to hold the weight. And this was an empty rail as opposed to a train full of people. There's another term that's critical here. It's called program management. I think this is critical because programs and project management sometimes gets used interchangeably, erroneously. They're not the same thing. A program has a defined start, but there's no defined ending. And a program could have hundreds of projects underneath that program umbrella. So not the same thing. I've got some slides that are called potential problem areas for project management. Based upon my experience doing projects, these are some of the things that I've seen that I think need special attention. So I want to mention them in this short video on project management to get people thinking about the projects and project management, maybe even group projects while you're still in school. The first one is the project team. Now, the problem with project teams is nobody can afford to keep a group of folks just sitting here waiting for a project to show up. Tell you what, okay, you 5 people just sit here in the break area. Search the web. I'm going to pay you good money. Just sit there until I need you. Nobody can afford that. Nor would anybody really want that job because that'd get pretty boring after a while. So project teams are usually ad hoc. When I need a project, I put together a team. So I have people from different departments in my organization. Here's my experience. First, I thought this was a military unique kind of thing. Now I realize that it's really industry wide, commercial as well as military. If I'm not very clear what I need on my project management team, I just tell you, I need somebody from your department to be on this team. Here's what happens. People go, how long is your project? 6 months? Oh, do I have the perfect person for you? And they give me the person they can do without the easiest. Their problem child, they can't handle, they give them to my project. Now they're my problem for 6 months. They're happy. I got the issue. I've seen this happen way too often, so I know this happens a lot in business, as well as when I was in the military. I got to be very specific what I need for skills. And I got to make sure that you understand from your perspective the benefit to you to put the right person on my team. The second problem here is that all these people on the team work for somebody else normally. Now they're temporarily on my team. Now, if it's a long-term project, not quite as bad. But for short-term projects, here's what happens. You know that your performance appraisal for the year is written by the person you normally work for. But for 3, 4, 5 months, you're working for me. Now, I can give input to your boss what you're doing, but he or she didn't have to listen to it. So you know that your annual performance appraisal, that one document that carries so much weight because it determines whether you get a promotion or a pay raise or even stay with the company or get a bonus, is all dependent upon this annual performance appraisal. So you're trying to keep me, the project manager, happy while you're trying to keep your other boss happy because you know he or she's writing your performance appraisal. Creates what I call a matrix organization. You're working for two different people at the same time, and it creates issues. Because of that, one of the things I think that is overlooked in project management is the project manager needs to have some leadership skills to handle these matrix organization conflicts between what I want you to do and what your normal boss wants you to do. So a project manager needs some leadership skills in addition to technical skills to run the project. Then there's this project charter. It's got to be written very well. The project charter is that high-level document that gives the project manager his or her authority to make decisions. It gives the company the authority to put together this project team. The better this is written, the better everybody will understand the mission of the project and the project team itself. The next piece that I think is a critical piece is the statement of work. The statement of work is what drives this entire project. The better the statement of work is written, the better the outcome should be of the project. For example, if I don't do a good statement of work and I have an external organization doing my project for me, they're going to bid on what's in that statement of work. The problem here is a lot of companies have gone to this idea of we're going to outsource the writing of our statement of work to this company over here because their core competency is writing. Problem is they don't understand the ins and outs of the business. They just know how to write. They can only write what I give them. If I don't give them everything, because I assume you know that to do this, you've got to do this, this, and this. So I just say do this. And they put in the statement of work, do this. And so you bet on doing this because you didn't assume that I want you to do this and this as well. Creates cost overruns. When I was at Fort Irwin, California, we had the first time we had a major change of contractors. 4-year project, brought this company in. New company came in. They were the low bidder. I'm not a big fan of low bidder, but they were the low bidder. And at the time, the government went on low bid contracts. They gave it to the lowest bidder. Lowest bidder did not include all these things he had to do. Said, do this. They said, we can do this. Do this. We can do this. Do this. We can do this. But they didn't realize they had to do this, this, and this to do this. first day of the contract, after the contract was signed, they came in and said, well, now we understand we got to do this, this, and this. It's going to cost you $1 million more. Time out. That $1 million more puts you no longer the lowest bidder. So if you want to do that, we need to reopen the contract bidding because somebody else should have gotten the contract. The next time I was at Fort Irwin, a few years later, we were getting ready to swap out contractors again. This time, we wrote a statement of work that was 2 3-inch binders thick, 10 font, single spaced, double printed. Everything that we did, I want to make sure was in that statement of work so that we didn't get the same issue again. This statement of work is going to drive all the activities we're going to do. So the project manager is going to make decisions and make estimates based on time, money, personnel, equipment, technology that I need to do this project based upon the statement of work. So the better the statement of work is written, the better the chances are I'm going to complete this project on time and within budget and do all the things I'm supposed to do. It gives me the mission of the project. And from this mission, I'm going to come up with a list of events and the order of precedent for those events that have to be done in. What do I have to do first, second, third, all the way through the completion of the project? So I'm building a building. Probably the last thing I want to do is remove the cranes so that I get everything done and get the cranes out of there. So there's phases of the project I think are important to talk about. There's 5 basic phases. There's the initiating phase. This is the drafting and the writing of the charter, the selection of the project manager, and probably the selection of the team itself, which leads to the planning phase. In the planning phase, I start doing, what are the activities? How much time do I need? How much money do I need? What equipment do I need? What is the outcome going to be of this project? Then do the execution phase. I'm going to show you some tools in just a second and talk about some tools in a second that are critical to the execution phase of the project. And while I'm executing the project, I'm also monitoring and controlling the project, trying to keep it on time, keep it within budget, make sure I'm completing all the steps. Again, ties to these tools we're going to look at in a second. There's the closing phase, and this one's critical. This one gets overlooked a lot. During the closing phase, I can do all the paperwork to make sure I get paid if I'm an external consultant or external project management team. Make sure the contractors get paid if I have contractors involved in the project. And one thing I think gets overlooked during this closing phase is an after-action review. At the end of each project, I think it's critical to do an after-action review. What were we supposed to do? What did we do well? If we had to do another project, I'd use the same team again, or I got to do a project again as a project manager, what would I do the same way again? So we did it very, very well. What did we do not so well? If we're going to do this type project again, what would we do different? And document that. Put it in a file. Put it on the server. Put it in a notebook. Put it on the shelf. Whatever you want to do with it. And every time there's a project, if we review this after action review, yeah, it's a good idea. I wouldn't have thought of that. Well, I would have done that. They said it didn't work. If we do this, every time we do a project in our organization, we're going to become better at doing projects. Or every time I do a project as a project manager, I become better at being a project manager. It may turn out that our core competency in our company is doing projects because we keep doing this after action review process and keep getting better at doing it. So when I look at project control, there's really 3 basic tools that are out there. None of them are new. They've been there for a while, but they work. I want to make sure I've got all the activities in the right sequence. I've got all my things documented. So when I do the planning, I start laying this out. I've got a logical flow of activities. The first tool we look at is the Gantt chart. Now the Gantt chart's been around, I don't know, 1914. Some people say 1912. When it's over 100 years old, a couple years ain't a whole lot of difference. Henry Gantt came up with this idea of the Gantt chart as a way of tracking projects. They used the Gantt chart for the building of the Hoover Dam in the 1930s. No computers back then. The only difference between a Gantt chart then and a Gantt chart now is now put all these activities and the time associated with it into Office Project, hit a button, boom, there's my Gantt chart. It spits it out for me. 1930s, when they did the Hoover Dam, they had to do it by hand. So I got a Gantt chart that I put together. It's a very simplistic Gantt chart on building a house. Now I know there's a lot more in building a house than what's in this chart. I got my activities. I've got them in the right sequence because obviously I can't do the finishing work inside the house. If I got the walls up, can't put the walls up till I have the foundation laid. I'm not going to lay the foundation until I know you can pay for it. So that's my sequence of events there. We're going to design the house, get the financing approved. Once I know you can pay for the house, we're going to start building. We're going to lay the foundation. We're going to order the materials, have them come in. We're going to start building the house. We're going to select the paints and the carpets. We're going to do all the interior work, turn the house over to you. Now, this simple Gantt chart takes 9 months to build a house. Now, I know that's a little unrealistic, but it makes for a nice example. It takes 9 months to build a house. You probably don't want it, or it's a really super great house, one or the other. But anyway, if you look at the Gantt chart, very simplistic. I love Gantt charts because they're simplistic. I'm a simplistic kind of guy. I can look at this chart, know exactly where I'm at. If I go to the 4-month mark, it tells me I should have already completed the design and financing. I should be about halfway finished laying the foundation and either starting or in the process of ordering and receiving the materials to build the house. Very simplistic tool. Now, I've seen some of these who would run the length of a classroom when you put it on the wall, but you can look at it and see exactly where you're at any given point in time. Am I on schedule, behind schedule, ahead of schedule? Two other kind of tools that are out there for keeping, monitoring, controlling, executing the project. One is the critical path method chart. Critical path method chart has been around since about 1956. A little newer than the Gantt chart, but still not very new. It's 60 plus years old. Still being used because it works. And I am a firm believer. If something works, don't mess with it. Use it. Don't reinvent the wheel. It's already there. The second tool we're going to look, or the third tool we're going to look at now, is the project evaluation review technique. It too has been around since the mid-50s. It's not new. It came about with the Navy as a way of keeping track of building nuclear submarines, keeping them on track, keeping them on time within budget. So the first one we look at is the critical path method. The critical path method chart and the PERT chart look a lot alike. The critical path method chart gets its name from going through the chart. The longest pass through the chart is the critical path. If it's on the critical path, if I move it backwards, I impact the completion of the project. If it's not on the critical path, I can slide it one way or the other. I got some slack. I can move it one way or the other without impacting the project. So look at this chart I've got in the slide deck. Same activities I had on the Gantt chart. You see, this is not quite as easy to look at. My engineering students, I know y'all love these things. I'll give you a quick example or a quick story as to why I'm not a big fan of critical path method charts and PERT charts. They're good, don't get me wrong. They're great tools. When I was in grad school the first time, I took a summer course. First thing that I discovered that summer was my advisor forgot to tell me that I needed to have only 3 courses instead of 4 courses to be a full-time student in the summertime. 6-week semester as opposed to the normal semester we had the rest of the year. Forgot to tell me that. Just a minor oversight there on my advisor's part. So now I'm taking 4 courses in a 6-week summer session. They give you a little schedule about the size of this piece of paper here. Long before the days of internet and everything on your phone. Didn't even have phones back then other than house phones. And this little schedule, long before the days of Twitter when things were truncated to so many characters, it truncated on this little schedule. It had the course and the number and the hours and the description of the course and then where it met, and the days and time it met, all on a little piece of paper. So it truncated the title of the course. My course was Advanced Analytical Methods. it got truncated on the schedule to advanced anal meth. Should have known right off the bat this was not going to be a fun course. In the first week, luckily I had a computer program to go with it. First course I ever had with a computer program, but it had a computer program to go with it, so it made things a little simpler. Till we got to doing critical path method charts and PERT charts about halfway through the first week. And there's this thing in the critical path method chart and the PERT chart called a dummy. And you see I've got one there between 3 and 4 on the slide, in the slide deck. A dummy activity, as I learned, I went and talked to the instructor because I got frustrated, because I was convinced for about 2 days the dummy activity was me, because I couldn't grasp this concept. Dr. Singh said, Joe, the dummy is just there. It's a link in the computer. That's all it is. To show that between, in this case, between 3 and 4, I've got to finish activity 2 and activity 3 before I can start 4. There's no time associated with this dummy. It's just a link in the computer. But here I am, 30 plus years later, still think back to those days and sometimes have flashbacks and think I'm the dummy. So I'm not a big fan of critical path or PERT charts, but they're very good. A little more complicated than the Gantt chart, but they serve their purpose. So if I look at the longest pass in that chart that's in your slide deck, I've got to do 1 to 2. Obviously, there's no option there. I've got 2 months to finish between 2, 3, and 1 between 2, 4. So I got some slack there to order materials. So my critical path now goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Now I've got some slack there. I've got 2 months to select the paint and select the carpet between 4, 5, and 5, 6. But I've got 3 months between 4, 6 to build the house. So that's my longest path. So my longest path when I go through this network is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. 9 months to finish the project. A little more complicated than the Gantt chart, but still works very well. I got another CPM chart there that I've only got there just to show you the difference between a CPM chart and a PERT chart. When you look at the PERT chart, I've got 3 time estimates. So really the biggest difference between a CPM chart and the PERT chart, and there's lots of written about, is the activity on the arrow, the activities on the node. I don't care. I got to do the activity one way or the other. The biggest difference for my money is critical path method chart, like the Gantt chart, gives you 1 time estimate per activity. The PERT chart, the project evaluation review technique chart, gives you 3 time estimates. It gives you an optimistic time, it's the shortest time. It gives you a most likely time, and gives you a pessimistic time, the longest time. So if you look at the one I've got in the slide deck, if you look at the optimistic time, I've got 3 for AC or for AB, and a dummy there between B and C. So it's 3. I've got 5 between C and D. I've got 5 when I go D, E, F, as opposed to D, F. So I've got 3, 8, 5, 13. 13 weeks to finish this project. If I look at the pessimistic time frame, the longest pass through there, the longest time network, I've got 9, 17, 9, I got 10, so I got 27. So somewhere between 13 and 27 weeks, I'm going to finish your project. When are you going to finish? Don't worry about it. Somewhere between 13 and 27, I'll be finished. I'm building you a house. Somewhere between 13 and 27 weeks, your house will be finished. When do you move out of the old house? When do you sell the old house if you're selling a house? When do you break the lease if you're renting a place? I don't know. Somewhere between 13 and 27, relax, I got it. And you're going, wait a minute, time out. I want to know when you're going to finish. So from a supplier perspective, the PERT chart's great. Because it gives you flexibility. In this case, somewhere between 13 and 27 weeks, I got 14 extra weeks there to deal with. I got enough time to put your project on hold, do somebody else's higher paid project, get it finished, and come back and still finish within the pessimistic time. From a supplier perspective, this flexibility is great. From a customer perspective, it sucks. You want to know exactly what I'm going to finish. So from a customer perspective, I think the Gantt chart or the critical path method chart are much, much better. From a supplier perspective, this is great because it gives me flexibility with the PERT chart. There's a concept out there called project crashing. Nothing to do with helicopters falling out of the sky, as we all discovered this year. That ain't good. Having been in a helicopter fell out of the sky, it's not fun. This is about finishing the project early. If I'm behind, if I got a bonus for finishing early, or finishing it on time. If I've gotten behind schedule, what do I need to add for resources to finish it on time? I may never need this project crashing plan. I may never need it, but I want to do it as part of the project planning phase in case I need it. I want to have a plan in place. What do I need to do to add resources to finish early to get this bonus? And oh, by the way, is the cost of adding the resources going to cost me more than the bonus is going to give me? What do I need to do to add resources to finish on time? Got behind schedule. And then I got to do that trade-off analysis. Is the cost of crashing the project going to be more than paying a penalty for finishing late? Let me give you a classic example. 2012, they redid the complete HVAC system in Murphy Hall. I know, but one of my nephews was working on that project. The project was supposed to be a 2-month project. It was to start the first week of January, finish the end of February, 2012. It was a low bid contract. The company that won the contract did not consider that Murphy Hall being an old building, before they could upgrade the heating air conditioning system, they get rid of asbestos lining the pipes, put them behind schedule. The initial plan was, we'll just work overtime to catch up. And my nephew was staying at the house with me because he lived over in Missouri. So he stayed here because it made it better for him, and I had a spare bedroom. But he bragged every night about all this extra money he's making in overtime. And he's not paying any rent, so he's really making lots of money. But then about the middle of February, the boss realized that union scale wages for and overtime scales for pipe fitters, electricians, and plumbers is costing a fortune. He made the conscious decision to not pay overtime, knowing it would delay the project. It was $1,000 a day penalty for every day after the 28th of February that they finished the project. They were 2 weeks late. He paid $14,000 in penalties for finishing late, but it was cheaper than paying the overtime hours to all the workers. The downside of that, though, is one of the things that's gone into project management and contracting in the last 5 or 6 years is they look at past performance. How well did you do on previous contracts if you're doing projects? And because they finished late, they have not gotten another project on campus since then. So there's some other extraneous things that happen if you don't finish on time. Again, I may not need this project crashing plan, but my goal is always to have one if I need it. I want to have the plan in place so I can implement it and finish early to get that bonus, or finish on time if we got behind schedule. So let's wrap up project management. Kind of a quick overview of project management. Again, I'm not trying to make you a project management professional or an expert. I just want to expose you to it. But some of the things in project management, we'll see when we talk about product design, and some of the things in project management you're probably seeing in your group projects while you're still in school. Projects are one-time events. Defined beginning, defined end. The better the statement of work is written, the better the project will be. My project manager has to have not only technical skills to manage the project, but leadership skills to handle that matrix organization and all the personalities involved in projects. Gantt charts, project evaluation review technique charts, critical path method charts are great tools for keeping the project on time and within budget. Those two major goals: finish on time, finish within budget. All three of these tools are old. The Gantt chart's over 100 years old. the PERT chart, the CPM chart, they're over 60 years old, but they still work. They still use today because they work. If it works, why mess with it? The Gantt chart, critical path method chart give you one-time estimate per event. So they are great from a customer perspective. I know when you're going to start. I know when you're going to finish. The PERT chart, the project evaluation review technique, gives you 3 time estimates. An optimistic time, the shortest, a most likely, and a pessimistic time, the longest time frame. Because of these 3 time estimates, I think the PERT chart is better from a supplier perspective, built-in flexibility. Now, I may not need my project crashing plan now, but I've got this flexibility. In the example we had in the slide deck, somewhere between 13 and 27 weeks, I had 14 weeks of flexibility built into this project completion. So from a supplier perspective, that flexibility is great. Again, 3 time estimates, optimistic, the shortest, most likely, and pessimistic, the longest. Project crashing needs to be part of my project plan up front. I may not need it. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So again, I can do at the end of each class, folks, please, with all the stuff going on in the world today, apparently COVID-19 is no longer a concern because it's not even in the news anymore, but it's still a concern. It's not gone away. Between all things going on with the pandemic, with all the crisis around the country, as we start now working on racial equality finally in this country. Hopefully it's not just something we're talking about every 4 years for elections. It's something we're going to start working on now and making it a reality. Everything going on, please, folks, stay positive. Stay focused. And we only got like a week and a half to go in this semester. Stay focused. Stay engaged. Stay social. Reach out to folks, see how they're doing. Touch base with them. Talk to folks. And stay healthy. Till tomorrow, have a great day.